Good afternoon, and welcome everyone to the Department of Justice Coordinated Tribal Assistance Solicitation Purpose Areas 8 and 9 webinar with the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention. My name is Christina, and I will be your moderator for today. As we begin our presentation today, it is my pleasure to introduce our presenters and panelists. And joining us are Heather McDonald and Kara McDonough from the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, as well as Jerome Avoid and James Smith. And starting our webinar today will be our first presenter, Kara. Go ahead, Kara.
Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome to the U.S. Department of Justice's training on Purpose Areas 8 and 9 of the Coordinated Tribal Assistance Solicitation, also known as CTAS, for fiscal year 2021. We will be taking you step by step through the important points of the 2021 grant solicitation as it pertains to Purpose Areas 8 and 9. The solicitation is available online through two required application systems, grants.gov and Just Grants. This solicitation is for federally recognized tribes and tribal consortia. In this presentation, you will learn about how CTAS is designed to help you understand Purpose Areas 8 and 9 that are administered by OJJDP. We will also cover details of what is required in the application and how to apply. Please note that the CTAS application deadline in Just Grants is 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on March 30th of 2021. All applications must be submitted by this deadline. We will talk a little bit more about the fact that it is a two-step application process this year. And the first step, there is a deadline for applicants to register for grants.gov, and that is March 16th, 2021. So we'll cover that a little bit later in the presentation. Okay, I think we talked a little bit about this, but we would love to hear your questions. You can submit your questions at any time throughout this entire presentation by using the Q&A box, and we'll go ahead and answer them at the end of the presentation. We may need to ask you some clarifying questions as we're answering them, so please feel free to continue to chat, to type into the question and answer box if there's any clarifying questions that come up on our end. And as Christina let you know earlier, a recording of this and all of the CTAS webinars will be made available at the OJP YouTube channel. CTAS is not a program, but a single solicitation under which tribes can apply to separate grant programs from 4 grant-making offices. Applicants may apply for funding under the purpose areas that best address tribes' concerns related to public safety, criminal and juvenile justice, and the needs of victims of child abuse and neglect. So applicants may apply under as many purpose areas as needed to address the concerns within their community. These focus areas or purpose areas include enhancing law enforcement, strengthening justice systems, preventing and controlling juvenile delinquency, strengthening the juvenile justice system, and improving the investigation and prosecution of child abuse cases. In an effort to build on the success of CTAS, DOJ asks tribes how to further refine and improve CTAS through an online assessment tool, consultation sessions, listening sessions, and focus groups. Many of these responses and suggestions are incorporated into the next CTAS solicitation, which aims to continue to be more user-friendly. So you will get an online assessment after the end of the solicitation period when it closes, and we ask you if you could please fill that out for us. We really do take the feedback seriously. Although CTAS provides one combined solicitation for all the purpose areas, the Department of Justice program offices that administer the grants are the COPS Office, Community-Oriented Policing Services, the Bureau of Justice Assistance, also known as BJA, the Office for Victims of Crime, or OVC, and our office, the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, which is also known as OJJDP. It's important to remember that although there is one central application process in CTAS, the programs and requirements are administered by separate offices at DOJ. The governing statutes authorize the different forms of funding for which the tribes and their authorized designees are eligible. A description of the bureaus and offices that administer the grants and the statutes attached to a purpose area can be found on the website at https://www.justice.gov/tribal. That is also the website where the solicitation and the related materials also live.
Great, and it looks like we have our first poll question. And if we can go ahead and launch poll question number 1. Thank you. And the question is, has your tribe applied for OJJDP specific funding through CTAS in previous years? And we ask our attendees to go ahead and select all that apply, and possible answers are Purpose Area 8, which is the Juvenile Tribal Healing to Wellness Courts, Purpose Area 9, Tribal Youth Program, and no, I have not applied in previous years, or I'm unsure. And as you can see, 33% indicated that they have applied for Purpose Area 8 in the past, 64% applied for Purpose Area 9 in the past, and 14% were unsure, and 5% have not applied for OJJDP specific funding in the past. And if we can go ahead and launch poll question number 2. Thank you. And the question is, which OJJDP purpose areas does your tribe plan to submit an application for in fiscal year 2021? And again, if we can go ahead and we can check all that apply, answers are Purpose Area 8, Purpose Area 9, or unsure. And as you can see, 20% plan on submitting for Purpose Area 8, 78% plan on submitting for Purpose Area 9, and 20% are unsure. Thank you, everyone, for participating in the polls. Go ahead, Kara.
Thank you. That's really helpful. It's great to know who we have on the line and whether you've applied or what your intentions are for this year. So thank you. We wanted to start off by giving you a broad overview of the history of CTAS funding as a whole. So the numbers here on this slide represent awards across all purpose areas. As I said before, grant funding under these purpose areas are related to public safety, criminal and juvenile justice, and the needs of victims and survivors of domestic violence, sexual assault, and other forms of violence. As you can see from the chart in this slide, in 2020, 199 separate tribes or tribal designees or consortia applied for CTAS. 120 of those 199 applicants that applied were funded for one or more of the purpose areas they applied under. More specifically, where the slide shows 395 applications, what that means is that applicants applied for a total of 395 different purpose areas. Some applicants applied for only one, and some applied for multiple purpose areas. Again, the choice of how many purpose areas to apply for is up to the tribe and is determined by your priorities and capacity and eligibility. In 2020, of those 395 different separate purpose area applications, 186 of them were awarded. And again, once they're awarded, the grants are administered by separate offices in DOJ. For Purpose Areas 8 and 9, the programs are administered by OJJDP. Now that I've had a chance to share some overall information about CTAS awards with you, I'll move on to talking specifically about OJJDP's purpose areas. Purpose Area 8, the Juvenile Healing to Wellness Courts, and Purpose Area 9, the Tribal Youth Programs. We've included this slide to offer some insight into the award-making process under these purpose areas. So the last 2 years, 2020 and 2019, are represented here, and it shows the number of applications we receive and how many we've had the funding to award. You can see that we received far more applications for Purpose Area 9 than for Purpose Area 8. I think we saw that in our poll as well. Unfortunately, in the past, we have received many more highly competitive Purpose Area 9 applications than we've had the funding to award. We do have some good news in this fiscal year, however. The number of awards we are going to be able to make under Purpose Area 9 is expected to roughly double. We know there's still, much more need than we have the funding to be able to award. But for this year, for Purpose Area 9, we'll be making approximately 17 awards, up to a maximum of $500,000 per award, for a project period of 5 years, and under 2 categories. My colleague Heather will be talking more about Purpose Area 8 momentarily, but the anticipated funding for that category is $2 million. So approximately 5 awards will be made for a maximum of up to $400,000 per award, also for a project period of 5 years. The categories under Purpose Area 9 are Category 1, which is to develop a new tribal youth program. So this is a program that doesn't currently exist, and applicants are limited to those tribes that have not been awarded a Purpose Area 9 award from OJJDP in the last 3 fiscal years. So if you have an OJJDP award that was awarded in 2018, 2019, or 2020, you would not be eligible for Category 1. So we make some of these limitations, again, because we have so many more applicants than we have funding to award. But again, Category 1 is to develop a new tribal youth program. And if you have not been awarded a TYP grant in the last 3 years, then you would be eligible for that. For Category 2, this is a fairly new category, and this is the 2nd year. And this is to enhance an existing OJJDP-funded youth program. What we've found is that many tribes use their first award and they have some success, but then the grant funds run out, and it's extremely difficult to sustain their efforts. So we added Category 2 for those tribes that are having a successful tribal youth program that was funded by OJJDP and who need an additional award period in order to sustain it and in order to build the program such that when the next grant award runs out, it will be able to stay in effect. So funding for this activity is intended for current grantees who have developed and are implementing a tribal youth program they would like to enhance or expand. So if you have a Purpose Area 9 grant from OJJDP that has a project period end date in this year, 2021, you are eligible to apply for Category 2. So this was included in our overview webinar. This talks about what is new in CTAS broadly. Purpose Area 9 is not included in CTAS this year. OVW will be funding the tribal governments program, but it will be a separate solicitation. So you should know that. That's a big change from other years. The Tribal Community and Justice Profile and the Purpose Area Narrative templates have been streamlined and refined. We have tried to make them less duplicative. We did get feedback from tribes that there were some questions that duplicated themselves. And so we've tried hard to streamline. And then the area that I've highlighted here is that applications to CTAS this year for the first time will be submitted through a 2-step process. It involves our new Just Grant system, and it involves grants.gov. We will talk about this later in the presentation, but also the solicitation itself, which you can download here, contains a section that specifically talks about the steps in that new process, and it's on page 37. So there's a number of downloads that you can get from this presentation. One is the solicitation itself. There are also the two different templates, one for Purpose Area 8 and one for Purpose Area 9. So those templates are the questions that are used to build your narrative for those purpose areas. And then there is also a Purpose Area Spotlight document that's important to read as you are building your proposal. The next slide is really about what is new in Purpose Areas 8 and 9. In Purpose Area 8, it now includes funds to enhance existing juvenile healing to wellness courts. So in prior years, these funds were only for tribes that were starting a brand new court. And this year, these funds are available for those tribes that have been working on their courts and need funds to enhance or sustain them. And Purpose Area 9 has two categories that tribes can apply under. And I talked about that a little bit before, and I'll talk about it later in the presentation. This is the second year that this has been true. Okay, so I'm going to turn the presentation over to my colleague, Heather McDonald, who's going to take us through specific information about Purpose Area 8.
Hi there, this is Heather. So, yeah, welcome to considering to apply for Purpose Area 8. So the important thing to know is to make sure that if you're applying, that you're either a consortia of 2 or more federally recognized Indian tribes, or that you are a federally recognized Indian tribe. So if you choose to apply for Purpose Area 8 to either enhance a current juvenile tribal healing to wellness court or to make a new court, that is the primary eligibility requirement. So what we have here is a summary of what's on page 31 of the solicitation. So if you're unfamiliar, juvenile tribal healing to wellness courts are kind of like drug court. So it is a way to help people, individuals, youth with substance or use disorders achieve recovery through various methods, right? And so the various methods are defined by the court itself, and the court uses a team approach to make a patchwork to make sure that the youth is cared for and lifted up. So these teams often incorporate tribal elders, traditional healers, or any other culturally appropriate resources to promote the healing and reintegration into the tribal community. All of this is defined by the entity itself. So by the tribe itself, you get to describe what your team looks like and what is the best course of action. But you're not doing it on your own, because we have technical assistance providers and we have a 10 key components guide to help you lay the foundation to build or strengthen your juvenile tribal healing to wellness court. So for fiscal year 2021, we hope to have $2 million available. So that means that there will be about 5 awards for about $400,000 per award. These grants are for 5 years in length. So once again, if you choose Purpose Area 8, we're looking to support tribes that are seeking to establish new or enhance an existing juvenile tribal healing to wellness court to respond to the alcohol and substance use issues, including opioid use, of juveniles and young adults under the age of 21. So if you are successful and you receive one of these grants in fiscal year 2021, you will be required to work together with OJJDP's training and technical assistance provider. And so they will train you across time on the key objectives and the deliverables that you have to create for this grant. And that support will be for the entire course of the 5-year period. If you want a preview of these 10 key components, of a healing to wellness court, you can go to the website. It's at http://www.wellnesscourts.org. So the program objectives are on pages 31 through 34 of the solicitation. And there are a lot more specific details on pages 16 and 17 of the Purpose Area Specific Spotlight resource. So the main point is you want to make sure that you do a community strengths and needs assessment to define the need for your juvenile tribal healing to wellness court or for the enhancements that you would like to put on your existing court. You want to make sure that you identify the resource gaps and any other areas of needs that should be addressed during the planning and implementation of this juvenile healing to wellness court. You want to make sure that you build support from your tribal council or tribal court judges, the prosecutor's office, treatment providers, schools, tribal elders, basically any community member that you feel is appropriate as you define it in your application. You want to make sure that you develop or enhance your court policies and procedures, and those things should definitely address eligibility criteria, screening and assessment procedures or tools, phased treatment, support services, compliance monitoring, graduated sanctions, and incentives. Again, these sort of things are in the 10 key components. So if you're unfamiliar with it, you can familiarize yourself a little bit. You want to make sure that you reflect on and hire any staff needs for a juvenile tribal healing to wellness court team. You want to make sure that you participate in as many of the TTA activities that you can. Some of them are mandated for you to participate in if you are successful and receive funding under Purpose Area 8, and others are nice things to do. But the important part is that you will receive training and technical support, and it'll be through a guided strategic planning framework, and you'll use this Juvenile Healing to Wellness Handbook to help you through that process. You'll also have an assigned technical assistance provider or TA provider to help you with this grant. Please note that OJJDP has a designated TA provider for this project. Grantees should not propose to use any grant funds to hire consultants for this purpose. It is likely that you'll need to complete or update a juvenile tribal healing to wellness policy and procedure manual. You will need to potentially develop or enhance your written bench books, screening and assessment tools, contracts, handbooks, or other resources so that you can successfully implement a juvenile tribal healing to wellness court. You'll need to develop a strategic plan for implementation following the goals, objectives, action steps, and timeline that you define in your application. You'll have to develop and write a data collection protocol during your time as a grant recipient. You'll need to figure out and have a good plan on how to collect, store, and analyze this data so that you can measure your success and make adjustments as you come across challenges in your project. You want to make sure you develop and implement appropriate data collecting systems to support your project. You want to collect this data tied to your performance measures in the strategic plan. You want to make sure that you're screening these court-involved juveniles and young adults for eligibility. And then finally, you want to make sure you conduct a process evaluation with assistance from the OJJDP designated TA provider. So don't get overwhelmed. I know that was a lot, but you can read these again in your own time on page 31 and 34 of the solicitation or on pages 16 and 17 of the Purpose Area Specific Spotlight resource. So when you're making a budget, these are some things that you might want to put on the specific line items. This is not an exhaustive list of areas that are allowable, but these are typical ones that people put on in order to successfully implement a juvenile tribal healing to wellness court. So remember that a TTA provider has already been identified to support Purpose Area 8 grantees, so applicants should not include requests for funding to support on-site consultants, as this will be managed by the existing TTA provider. So for Purpose Area 8, there is a well-defined limitation on the participation of violent offenders, and that is described and articulated on pages 32 to 33 of the solicitation. So that's where you can read the legalese from the U.S. Code Part 34 about why specifically you may not include violent offenders. So that is a juvenile who has been convicted of or adjudicated delinquent for a felony level offense. And again, those details are on pages 32 and 33 of the solicitation. One of the key requirements, if you are successful and receive a Purpose Area 8 grant, is you will have a 12-month strategic planning period. During this period, you will write a comprehensive plan for how you will implement your program, and it will include a sustainability plan. And so this is the coaching that you'll receive from your technical assistance provider, and this is where you'll be using that 10 key component guide as you build it. So there are 3 specific travel costs that you must build into your budget according to this solicitation. So that is on page 33. So these are placeholders that must be included in the budget. One is for a 2-day Healing to Wellness Court training in Palm Springs, California, 2 days of Purpose Area 8 trainings in Washington, D.C., and 1 2-day Department of Justice orientation in Washington, D.C. Again, you need to make sure that you budget for travel costs, including airfare, lodging, mileage, and per diem for training costs associated with this orientation. Even though we're in a COVID world, and it is very likely that these might be remote, as a part of this solicitation, it's important for you to build this budget in case we are able to do these trainings in 2022 in a safe way. Please know that there are web-based and new grantee orientations that people will participate in additionally if you are successful and receive this grant. So if you want to apply for this purpose area, one of the best things you can do is to go to the template, which is at this website that we've linked here, or it's one of the handouts on today's presentation. And that leads with questions that you have to answer. And if you successfully address those, you are well on your way to being an applicant for Purpose Area 8. So I really, really encourage you and any of your colleagues that are considering applying that you really take the time to delve in and reflect on those and answer those questions in the template, just to make it easier for you for this purpose area. So if you're looking for examples of what Purpose Area 8 Juvenile Tribal Healing to Wellness Court looks like, we actually had a stakeholder recently interviewed in our OJJDP newsletter. So you can read about the Bishop Paiute Youth Court. So I welcome you to please go to this article and read a little bit about their court. So the official technical service provider for any successful applicants based in Alaska and for Alaska Native villages is called the Resource Basket. They're also known as the Alaska Native Youth Provider Network and Community Connection. They're the official TTA provider for OJJDP's CTAS grant recipients. They provide training and technical support via phone, webinar, and in-person to tribal entities located in Alaska. And so their address is at resourcebasket.org. The next slide is for anybody in the lower 48. So any of the successful applicants in the lower 48, your technical assistance provider is called the Tribal Youth Resource Center. They're the official TTA provider for CTAS grants in the lower 48. So they also provide technical support via telephone, webinar, and in person. So what I have on here is a tiny screenshot, which we'll give you the link to. This is a blog posting from that TA provider spotlighting a juvenile tribal healing to wellness court. Is the Intertribal Court of Southern California. So if you want to read a little bit about another potential peer, that is a good place for you to go. Now I'm going to turn it over to my buddy Kara, and she's going to lead you through Purpose Area 9.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit about tribal youth programs now. Again, I think I've mentioned this before, but the funds for Purpose Area 9 are to support and enhance tribal efforts to prevent and control juvenile delinquency and strengthen the juvenile justice system for American Indian and Alaska Native youth. There are a variety of areas that we fund, and they include efforts at prevention, intervention, and treatment. So it's recommended that tribes choose no more than one general area in which to concentrate their proposal. And we say that because there are performance measures that are associated with this award. And sometimes tribes do use the funding, across to fill a lot of gaps in a lot of different areas. And there's, you're not prohibited from doing that, but we do kind of recommend that you kind of like look at one area and try to use this funding to strengthen that broad area, and so that you'll be able to kind of look at what kinds of effects the program has had, so that you can build it out and hopefully make it something that will be sustainable even after the end of the grant funds. The TYP program does have a strategic planning period, and in the best of times we do travel to a strategic planning training. That was not true this year. We didn't travel, just like most people did not travel this year, and we did our strategic planning over Zoom. And that may certainly be the case. We just don't know. So we're asking people, like Heather said, to build in the funding for that travel. But we'll have to determine whether or not it makes sense, as we go forward. So again, I know this can be a little bit confusing. So, we just put this eligibility for Purpose Area 9 and the two categories here again, just to explain again. So essentially, Category 1 is for a new tribal youth program. So if you have never been awarded a Purpose Area 9 grant, then you should apply under Category 1. Or if you have been awarded a Purpose Area 9 grant through OJJDP, but it was prior to the year of 2018, and you are looking to develop a new initiative, then you should apply under Category 1. And again, this is only federally recognized tribes are eligible for these Purpose Area 9 awards. So Category 2 is for those tribes that have a Purpose Area 9 grant that's going to be ending in 2021. So if your end date is in March of 2021, or in September of 2021, or in December of 2021, and you would like to apply for funding from us to continue or expand or enhance that program because it's been successful, and you need another award period to really solidify it, then you should apply under Category 2. And I know I can already see that there's a question about this. And, certainly if anybody needs any more clarification, please do feel free to type whatever you'd like into the question and answer box. So you can see this on page 34 of the solicitation. The TYP seeks to support and enhance tribal efforts to prevent and reduce juvenile delinquency and strengthen a fair and beneficial juvenile justice system response for American Indian and Alaska Native youth. So the funding in this purpose area enables tribes to either develop a program or an initiative, to expand something, or to strengthen approaches along the juvenile justice continuum. So that means it can range from prevention efforts. There are many cultural prevention programs that have been funded under Purpose Area 9, school-based prevention, after-school programs, culture camps, other kinds of prevention, to intervention. So with juvenile justice involved youth, so diversion programs or responses to truancy, or to treatment. So, all of those kinds of efforts have been funded under Purpose Area 9 in the past. So I think I spoke about this a little bit earlier, that, in developing your solicitation, you want to think about where you can have an impact, as opposed to sort of using it in lots of little ways across lots of things. But again, if that's your real need and that's how you want to develop your proposal, you want to just, make sure that you explain your rationale and, talk about what it is that you really need and how you came to that. So the other thing is that we recommend that you really think about your program design in terms of what's happening in your tribe in general. So if there are broader planning efforts that your tribe is undertaking, sometimes there's a tribal justice systems planning going on. Some tribes have a Purpose Area 2 grant, which is specifically designed to help you develop a strategic plan across your entire tribal justice system. If that's the case, or if there's other things, maybe there are working groups, or there's something with your leadership that is looking at areas that are related to the area that you're applying for. We recommend that you really take a look at that and try to align with that. And also with community support, what are the priorities for your community? And obviously those broader planning efforts and the community support are going to be extremely important for you to be able to implement whatever project is being proposed, but also for you to be able to keep the program going beyond the award period. So we did list a variety of examples of those prevention, intervention, treatment efforts, along with effective use of data approaches, and they're in pages 19 and 20 of the Purpose Area Specific Spotlight resource. There's a link on the screen that you can use, but you can also just download that Spotlight resource from the download area in this webinar. And the areas that are listed are considered priority areas for awards. Again, there's many different examples of different models. They can include mentoring, youth development, anti-gang education, dropout prevention, anti-bullying. They could be initiatives for children exposed to violence, or the development and implementation of trauma-informed practices. There's also a priority area around the development and implementation of tribal best practices and traditional healing methods to support tribal youth, along with intervention and treatment services for children exposed to sex trafficking, interventions for court-involved tribal youth, treatment services for at-risk and high-risk youth. So the examples that we have in there really cover a very broad range. And we do that because we're very aware that different tribes have very different needs and different capacity. And so we really are hoping that some of these priority areas will align with what it is that you all need. Like Heather mentioned in the Purpose Area 8 slide, we have some examples of, how you can use this funding. These are not exhaustive. They're just kind of common uses of the funding. Many tribes use the funding for staffing, for support services, for equipment and supplies. We do have the travel requirements, which I'm going to go over in the next slide. There may be some costs associated with strategic planning. A training and technical assistance provider will be working with you, and you do not have to budget any of your funds to pay for that expertise. We pay them, and they make themselves available to you in a very intensive way. They have access to a pool of experts and lots of resources that you can use to develop your strategic plan. And they do have templates that they'll be taking you through to help you, really solidify a sort of roadmap forward to implement your proposal and to kind of build it in such a way that it can be sustained. But again, there may be things that you all really need that are not on here. If you have specific questions about things that are allowable or not allowable, please feel free to ask them. And there's also we'll give you a help desk contact, but if you think of questions after this presentation, you can always send them to us and we can talk them through. So again, in sort of regular times, we do try to get together with all the TYP funded programs pretty regularly. We get together for a CTAS orientation. Those of you who have been awarded through any purpose area in CTAS probably know that we do an overall CTAS orientation in the beginning of the year. It's generally in December or January. And so we ask that you budget that, the DOJ-wide CTAS new grantee orientation in year one. We ask you to use Washington, D.C. as the location just because it makes it easy in terms of using the same location. But it's been a very long time since we've had it in Washington, D.C. We generally try to have it someplace that's closer to the majority of our tribal grantees. We've had it in California, we've had it in New Mexico, and this last year we had it virtually. And then we ask that you also do plan for a 3-day strategic planning session for a team of people, for up to 4 people. And that's very specific to your program. It's not a DOJ-wide CTAS broad orientation. It's more specific to sitting down with technical assistance providers and your program managers to really look at your proposal and start to work on the different sections that will serve, again, as a roadmap for implementation. And then we also, during the course of your 5-year grant award, we ask that you budget 2 different training events for 2 people. And we have every other year, we have a national tribal youth conference. That is actually happening virtually this year, the last week of March. And that is attended by tribes across the country. And, we have all kinds of expertise, all kinds of cross-cutting issues that are involved in developing services for tribal youth. So that's free and open to everyone. I'll cover more of that later in the presentation. But again, we're asking that you budget for that. And we're hoping that we might be able to gather by the time these awards are made. But if not, we'll do them virtually and we can work with you on reallocating the money that was budgeted for travel. this is very similar to the presentation that Heather made. And essentially, to build your Purpose Area 9 narrative, you can use the template. We have a series of questions on there, and we just ask that you're kind of attentive to covering all the parts of the questions. And we did that really as a result of feedback that we received from the tribes to, ask the questions and allow you to use the template to build out your narrative. So there's a link to download it here, but again, you can just download it from this presentation if you'd like. So the Tribal Youth Resource Center is the official TA provider for OJJDP's CTAS grant recipients. They provide training and technical support on the phone, in webinars, and in person. Even if you are in Alaska, you're free to use the resources of the Tribal Youth Program. The Tribal Youth Resource Center. They have a series of webinars. They've done webinars on juvenile code development, on trauma-informed practices. They're available really for anyone. You do not have to be a grantee in order to use their services. But I specifically put them here because you can contact them to ask about models, to talk to them about a proposal that you may be thinking of, to ask for maybe examples of programs that have been successful, and they would be more than happy to engage with you in that way. They're not able to write any kind of proposal for you. That's not technical assistance that they're able to provide. And they're not using them does not sort of, give you any sort of preference in terms of your application, but they're just simply a resource. They gather a lot of different information. They work all across the country. The people who are consultants and who work there have been working in Indian country for many, many years and have seen lots of different kinds of programs. So you are invited really to use them in whatever way makes sense to you. And the resource basket is our Alaska-specific TA provider. And again, if you're in the lower 48, you're also free to contact the resource basket. They coordinate, they share resources. They're both the Tribal Youth Resource Center and the resource basket are part of developing our trainings. But if you are in Alaska, they probably have more specific resources for you. They're going to know more about Alaska-based tribal youth programs and healing to wellness court programs. So again, please take advantage of that resource. Okay, I'm going to turn it back over to Heather to talk us through the new two-step process for applying for CTAS this year.
All right, thanks a lot. So this one is like a miniature refresher of the very detailed presentation that was presented on a previous webinar. That don't fret if you missed it. We've got it in writing in multiple places, right? We've got it in writing in the solicitation. They will be posting on YouTube the actual webinar so that you can walk alongside and follow it. But I'm going to give you a miniature summary version of the new two-step process. The very specific details are on page 37 of the solicitation. So here's some very tiny text that tells you that in the two-step process, the first step is to submit an SF424 and an SFLLL in grants.gov. So grants.gov is where you're going to submit an official cover sheet and a lobbying document. In order to submit on grants.gov, you will need to register. That means that you will need a Data Universal Numeric System, or DUNS number, and you'll need to be registered or renewed and active in SAM.gov, or the System of Award Management. These are the two systems that every entity that applies for grants with the federal government has to use. So we want to make sure that you have all your ducks in a row and that you have a DUNS number, that you're active in SAM, and that you make sure that you fill out SF424 and SFLLL on grants.gov. When you successfully complete that, then you get to submit the full application, including all the attachments, into the Department of Justice's system called Just Grants. That is where all of the grant making components for the COPS office and the Office of Justice Program, where OJJDP resides, that is our resource hub for grants management. It's also tied to the payment management system called ASAP. Both of these recently launched in October 15th of 2020. So to be considered a timely applicant, that application must be submitted in grants.gov by that deadline, and you must receive a validation message from grants.gov that indicates the successful and timely submission. I urge you, and my colleagues in the Office of Justice Programs urge you, to submit your applicants at a minimum 72 hours prior to the due dates in order to allow time for you to receive the validation messages or the rejection notices from grants.gov so that you can correct it in a timely fashion if there are any errors. So please know that there is a grant application resource guide directly linked in the How to Apply section. So when you're in the grant application resource guide, you can read these details on how to apply in grants.gov. So you want to make sure that you have a DUNS number, the Data Universal Number System number, and you want to make sure that you're registered and active online with the grants.gov. Then you want to register, log in, and submit that application for your SF424 and your SFLLL on grants.gov. So grants.gov is a primary place where anybody can find federal funding opportunities and apply for funding. There are complete instructions on how to register and submit an application on the grants.gov website. They've also got a technical support team and a web interface and a telephone number that is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, except for federal holidays. Please know that registering with grants.gov is a one-time process. However, processing delays may occur, and it can take several weeks for first-time registrants to receive confirmation of registration and a user password. The Office of Justice Programs encourages all applicants to register several weeks before the application submission deadline. So if you're considering applying and you don't currently have an active grants.gov account, you might as well start that now just in case, because that's the place where you can enter and see federal funding opportunities across the entire federal government. So don't forget, once you have an account and once you got your SF424 ready to go and your SFLLL ready to go, you want to make sure that you submit that at least 72 hours before the deadline so that you've got time to fix any mistakes or errors or rejections that might occur. I wouldn't want you to not be considered for funding just due to human error, right? So you want to do your best to try avoid that. Please sign up to receive grants.gov email notifications regarding the solicitation, and you could subscribe on grants.gov. That way, if you signed up for the email notifications, you'll get a notice if the solicitation is canceled or modified or closed. Then you'll get regular updates and automatic. Remember that every applicant is required to complete the following steps. You have to get a unique entity identifier, which is a DUNS number, and you have to be registered in SAM. SAM is the repository for standard information about federal financial assistance applicants, recipients, and subrecipients. A DUNS number is a unique 9-digit identification number provided by a commercial company called Dun & Bradstreet. More detailed information about SAMs and DUNS numbers are located in the solicitation. Please note, if you are not fully compliant with your applicable SAM.gov and DUNS number requirements by the time that OJP makes our award decisions, it may be determined that the applicant is not qualified to receive an award, and we may use that determination as a basis to give an award to a different applicant. Again, don't be overwhelmed. This is a tiny summary. The details are in writing in the grant solicitation, and you can watch the recording of how to apply, because there was a special separate webinar on how to apply when it comes to that point when you're ready to go. So in case you're unfamiliar, an SF-424 is a standard form. It's a standard coverage sheet that is the same across all federal grants. It is for the submission of pre-applications, applications, and related information. You want to double and triple check to make sure that the amount of federal funding requested on your SF-424 actually matches the total amount of federal funding requested in the budget that you're going to submit in the complete application package. You want to also make sure that the person that you identify as authorized representative on the SF-424 is actually somebody who has the authority to accept a federal award and all of its obligations on behalf of your tribe or organization. This authorized representative should definitely be in sam.gov. First-time applicants want to make sure that you attach official legal documents to your application and confirm your EIN, your identification number, as entered in SF-424. As a reminder for current OJP grantees, if your tribal entity or organization has had a change in its legal name or mailing address since you last received an award, you want to make sure that you update this information in sam.gov, and you want to make sure that you notify everybody at the Department of Justice to make sure that they know that this has happened, because it may be that we need to make these adjustments in multiple places. But this is supposed to be a seamless process, because now sam.gov talks to grants.gov, which talks to the financial system, which talks to JustGrants. So hopefully when you've made that legal change and documented it appropriately in sam.gov, then that legal name change and mailing address change will be seamlessly corrected across all the systems. Make sure that you have the correct DUNS number on your SF-424 when you send it in. Again, all of this information is in the grant application resource guide, and there's links in the solicitation. So that'll be your handy tool as you apply for this grant opportunity. So the other mandatory form that is submitted in grants.gov is called the SFLLL. This is the disclosure for lobbying activities. All applicants are obliged to disclose the existence or non-existence of lobbying activities by completing and submitting this form. Please visit the link on the screen to download a copy of the SFLLL so that you can fill it out and submit it at grants.gov. All right, the step 2, after you've done all of those preliminary and required things to identify your interest and to fill out your cover sheet and that required lobbying form, then you get to do the entire rest of the application in our brand new proprietary grant system called JustGrants. So this is where you're going to turn in your budget, your timeline, your abstracts, your narratives. This is where all the kit and caboodle of all the hard work describing your aspirations of what you'd like to do to create a juvenile tribal healing to wellness grant or to create a tribal youth program, this is where you're going to send it in no later than 9 p.m. on Tuesday, March 30th. All right. This one is Kara. I'm going to give it to Kara.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, we're getting there, and I see that people are submitting questions, so please continue to submit them, and we're definitely going to get to them. Just a little bit, just a few more slides really about resources that can help you as you put together your solicitation. There is a dedicated CTAS website. Hopefully you're already familiar with it. It's where you can download the solicitation itself. You can download all the templates. There are fact sheets, there are frequently asked questions, and there is the webinar schedule. So it is www.justice.gov/tribal. And then here is the application timeline. The solicitation was released on January 19th, a little later this year than usual. And our two-step process means that there's two different deadlines. So that is probably, if you take nothing else away, that is a really important consideration because we know that it's new, and we know from the poll that many of you have applied before. So the first deadline is in grants.gov, and that's March 16th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And then the second phase is the Just Grants deadline, and that's March 30th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And then we expect to award grants no later than September 30th of this year. We're sort of putting this in bold. We say it every year, and we understand that lots of things do come up, and certainly you are doing many, many things, and not just CTAS. But we unfortunately have, the sad experience every year of people, going to submit their applications in the last, right before the deadline, and having some kind of technical issues, and then, ending up being ineligible. So we just encourage you to, maybe put it in your mind that, the deadline is one day before or something, just so that you have a chance for any kind of glitches to happen without, totally stressing you out. So there can be unforeseen local technical issues, and we know that you're now dealing with two different systems. So this is just a reminder to, if you can, to please, try to do it prior to the last day. Okay. After 9 p.m. on Eastern Time on Tuesday, March 30th, no applications or additional attachments will be considered. They're not already submitted to DOJ. And this is barring natural disasters. So in partnership with the CTAS committee, an online guide was created that can help applicants think through and prepare in lots of areas of planning your program and your proposal. There is an entire section on budget. We encourage you to use the guide for more in-depth detail on what we have briefly gone over here. Each section is rich with information, is interactive, and includes downloadable worksheets and tools to help you put together your best proposal. So the online guide isn't a requirement for getting funded, and using it, won't directly increase your likelihood of getting funded. But there are a lot of resources in it, and we hope that you'll find it helpful. So this is, again, just a reminder of the deadline, and please submit any questions you might have at this time, and we will go ahead and start to answer questions now.
Great. Thank you, Kara. Thank you, Heather. Great presentation today. And the first question is, are award decisions based on geographic distribution or affected by a tribe having received a prior CTAS award?
Thank you, Christina. Those are two different considerations that may be used in making award decisions. They're not the only considerations. As I said, the different purpose areas are very different in terms of competitiveness. So in the most competitive purpose areas, we may have lots of applications that score, roughly the same score. So, some of the considerations that might be brought to bear in that case would be kind of a geographic distribution, would be past performance, could be, a program model, and there could be other considerations that are like that could be used to sort of differentiate between applications that score, roughly the same score. So I hope that answers the question. If there's any, follow-up, please do, go ahead and type that into the question and answer box.
Thank you, Kara. And our next question is looking for the peer review feedback, and they asked for, back in January, reviewer feedback from the Purpose Area 9 application from fiscal year 2020. With not having received that yet, would there be any tips on writing a strong application from the standpoint of maintaining low numbers of justice-involved youth, thanks to the program that's already in place? Their concern is funding to continue their successful work and being able to build on their programs after a year of challenges due to the current pandemic.
Great. Yeah, this is a great question. And I'm sorry that you did not receive your feedback, but I can definitely get you that feedback. If you can let the facilitators know a good email address for you, I can send that directly to you. I'll just need to know, your tribe, and the reviewers' comments, I think, can be really helpful. In addition, I think the rest of your question was asking about are there any tips on building strong applications from the standpoint of keeping the numbers of justice-involved youth low. And I would say strong applications are ones where, you really are able to paint a picture to help the reviewers understand exactly how you determined your priorities and, the success that you have had already, and, what the strategy is to continue having that successful outcome of having, low numbers of justice-involved youth. It's really important that the different aspects of the application be consistent and that they tie together well. I would also say that one of those last slides that talks about the CTAS online guide, there's some really nice tips for building strong applications in there. And as well, there also was a webinar earlier in this series that went through tips for building successful applications. So both of those, I think, are good resources, if you want to kind of get overall tips for building strong applications. In terms of what you said around maintaining the low numbers of justice-involved youth, I think it's just important that you help reviewers understand your strategy and how it all ties together. So I hope that answered your question.
And the online tool that Kara had mentioned, the link for that is included on this slide, as well as some of the support hotlines for Just Grants, grants.gov, the Response Center. So there's just some useful resources and key contacts on this slide if you would like that information or want to take that information down during the Q&A session. And
Christina? Yeah, I just wanted to highlight this slide. I think, you can download this whole PowerPoint and then you'll have this slide. Or if you're having trouble doing that, if you can take a screenshot of this particular slide and keep it near you, because I do think with the two-step process, you are dealing with two different systems, and should you come up against any, technical problems, this is really your first go-to, is to use those hotlines, to use the email address there. You can do both. And if you have questions about the actual solicitation itself, there's the response center. And like you said, the online tool that I mentioned, the web link is there. If you go to that web link, you'll need to scroll down, and you'll find the the graphic that you see in the PowerPoint. Sometimes people go to that that particular site and they don't see it, and it's because they haven't scrolled down long enough.
Excellent points. Thank you, Kara. And our next question is relating to Category 1. Does Category 1, does that mean any CTAS award? They've not been awarded in Purpose Area 9, but they have been in other purpose areas, and there was in the category a mention of not being eligible if you've been awarded in the past.
Yes, thank you so much for this question. I understand that this, could be a little bit confusing. When we say that you are ineligible if you were awarded in 18, 19, or 20, we only mean for that purpose area. So if you have not been awarded in Purpose Area 9 at all, ever, then you are definitely you are definitely eligible for Category 1. So I think we have some other questions that are kind of about the intricacies of the eligibility for these categories. So please, if there's any, kind of doubt or question at all, or if there's some specific question you want to ask about eligibility for Category 1 or Category 2, we welcome that.
Thank you, Kara. And our next question is, where do we find the performance measures for Purpose Area 9?
Okay, I actually did see that question earlier in this presentation, so I put it into the chat. There's a link for the performance measures for Purpose Area 9 and for the performance measures for Purpose Area 8. They are in the chat. If anybody can't locate that, please feel free to ask a follow-up question. If you have been awarded an OJJDP grant in the past, let's just say it was a while ago, or let's say it was a Purpose Area 8 award and now you're applying for Purpose Area 9 or vice versa, you will want to check out those links as well, because the performance measures have changed in the last year. So, it's probably a good idea to review those links.
Great, thank you, Kara. And our next question is regarding new initiatives and how much of the application would need to be a new initiative, and what would not be considered able to support, while what would be considered a new initiative and a not new initiative. It's not clear where that line is drawn.
Okay, that's a great question. So I'm going to assume that this question is about Category 1, because the language of Category 1 says this is funding to support a new initiative. It would probably be helpful for me if the person who asked this question could clarify whether they have received an OJJDP award in the past, a Purpose Area 9 award in the past. But I'm going to assume that you have not, and I'm going to assume that you have something that's basically working and but that has not been funded by OJJDP, and that you are looking for funding for that to continue it, and so you're asking if you could be eligible for Category 1, and the answer to that would be yes. That would be a new program to us. And you should describe, what's been working and what you will propose to do with these new funds. So if there's an aspect of it that you are going to strengthen or you're going to add to something that's already working, you should highlight that. But the fact is, under the scenario that I just described, you would be new to us. Okay. I think maybe we have a clarifying answer here.
And it looks like they have a 2017 award, but they may want to do a new initiative and still be able to support what they've been doing in Area 2.
Okay, that's helpful. So I would say, please feel free to reach out to that tribal response center, because they will put you directly in touch with me, and we can, kind of go over some of the specifics of this. But in general, if you have a 2017 award and it is ending in 2021, and you want to support, you want to continue that, and you want to support, what you started in 2017, then I would recommend Category 2. If you had a 2017 that's already ended, and you want to basically start something, somewhat new, but, still support some of what's been happening, then I would recommend Category 1. But again, if you want to talk this through, please do feel free to reach out to the Response Center.
Great, thank you, Kara. And our next questions are regarding travel. And for travel, is that for every year for the entire award for all of the years?
Okay, I'm going to answer for Purpose Area 9, and then Heather, you can answer for Purpose Area 8. So the travel that was described in the slides here is comprehensive for the entire 5-year period. So there was kind of a bullet point with several different trainings. Those trainings would happen over the course of the 5-year period. If we had you doing that many trainings per year, I think we'd be with you all the time, every year. Heather, did you want to answer for Purpose Area 8?
Yeah, it's the same thing. So across 5 years, you need to budget for 1 2-day Healing to Wellness Court Enhancement Training in Palm Springs, California. You have to budget for 2 Purpose Area 8 specific training events for 2 people in Washington, D.C. So now we're up to 3 events. And you have to do a single 2-day Department of Justice CTAS Orientation for 2 people in Washington, D.C. So those are 4 mandatory travel training events across a 5-year period. Again, these are spelled out on page 33 of the solicitation.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you, Kara. And the next question about travel is, for the training for 2 people, if there's a single person operating the tribal youth program, who else should they plan to have attend as the second person?
Okay, I can answer this for Purpose Area 9. That would really be up to you. We ask you to bring 2 people because what we've found is that sometimes a single staff person would come to a training and then, they would move on. Let's say they'd get another job, and then that knowledge and those connections that they made would be lost. So it could be their supervisor, it could be an elder, it could be an alumni of the program, it could be a parent, it could be the head of a department that they are trying to work with. sometimes people use these trainings as a way to sort of, strengthen some relationships. So I've seen where people will bring, someone in leadership because they want their leadership to understand, the nature of the program. And, that can be determined. You don't really have to spell that out in your application, but it can be determined once your program is underway. Our technical assistance specialists and your program manager, they can work with you to sort of figure out what would be the best use of, that opportunity for your particular program.
Thank
Hey,
you,
this is
Kara.
Heather. This is Heather. I also think it's a good idea to consider sending a financial person, right? Because you want to make sure that the financial person understands the value of your proposed tribal youth program too, right? So it doesn't always just have to be the person that's physically operating the program. That makes sense. It could be a support person that is in a financial realm.
Yes, that's a good point.
Thank you, Heather and Kara. And the next question is regarding when presentations will be available on the YouTube channel. And the recordings of the fiscal year 2021 CTAS webinars, those will be posted within 10 days of the webinar. And again, those are posted to the OJP YouTube channel, and that's at www.youtube.com/user/OJP-OCOM. So within 10 business days. And the next question is, are the solicitation web or templates are mostly in PDF format and not in Word? Is there a way to get the templates in a Word format? The tribal profile and cover sheet are some examples that are available in PDFs and not Word.
This is James. We have all of those in Word. I'm going to double check the website right now because I was almost positive that the ones that needed to be in Word were on there, but we can certainly get those to you if they are not. And I'm just going to check very quickly to see. Whoever had that question, if you just send me a direct email for whatever templates you need, I can get them to you in Word, and I will work with our website people to get them posted in Word as well. But my email address is james.a.smith@usdoj.gov. Again, that's james.a.smith@usdoj.gov, and just be very specific in what template you need, and I can get that to you. And meanwhile, I'll work on the website.
Thank you, James. And our next questions are regarding the SF424. And in a previous training last week, it was mentioned that the amounts on the SF424 as submitted in grants.gov didn't necessarily have to match the final amount, but just wanted some clarification. Do the amounts need to match or do they not need to match?
I'll take that question because I know exactly why the person's asking that. So it's two ways you can look at this. If you are only applying to, let's just say, Purpose Area 9 or Purpose Area 8 or just one purpose area, then when you go into grants.gov and you do your SF424, put that correct amount, and then that correct amount matches your budget. It only becomes a problem for those applicants who are applying for more than one purpose area because grants.gov only lets you submit one SF424. So if you're applying to Purpose Area 8, 9, 1, and 3, for example, you just submit one combined total, and then we separate it on the back end on our end. But again, I just want to be clear. It only becomes a problem if you are applying for more than one purpose area. If you're just applying to one purpose area, you can submit the correct amount and make sure that your budget and your SF424 match, and you're fine. you will not be able to do that if you're applying to multiple purpose areas. And that is for the nature of CTAS, because it involves different funding streams, but grants.gov is only set up to accept one SF424 per solicitation. If you're applying for more than one purpose area, you have to combine the total or just put an estimate and we separate it and make sure it's correct on the back end.
Thank you, James. And if the amount changes from the time you submit the SF424 to the time that you submit your final budget in Just Grants, is that okay?
Just let us know. Whoever, and I would say it depends on in the process. Like if you know that you've already been awarded, then you'll have someone to reach out to. If it's like shortly after the solicitation closes or something of that nature, just reach out to tribalgrants@usdoj.gov, state what the issue is, and we'll get you in touch with the appropriate contact for whatever purpose area it is.
Thank you, James. And is it okay to apply for Purpose Area 8 and Purpose Area 9 in fiscal year 2021, or are we limited to just one of the purpose areas?
Thank you. This is a good question. Thank you for asking. You are not limited to one purpose area in OJJDP. You can apply for whichever purpose areas you're eligible for. So if your tribe is eligible for both Purpose Area 8 and 9, we would welcome an application from you for both. And we definitely have had tribes that were awarded both Purpose Area 8 and 9 in other years. You can build it so that these two areas are working together, or you can build it so that they were two different initiatives in different parts of your tribe. But either way, you'll want to, if you do decide to apply for both, there is a question on the template that asks, are these two areas kind of dependent on funding from the other area? So you'll just want to include some information on there.
Thank you, Kara. And for Purpose Area 9, can additional travel and training be included for Purpose Area 9? For example, attending an annual national dropout prevention conference.
Yeah, that's a great question, and thank you for that. And especially for the examples are always really helpful. That is definitely something that you can build in a conference like that, especially if it's integral to what you're trying to do. I would just, make sure that you add some language into your application about how that travel is related to your program. So that's kind of an obvious one that you just gave. If you have a dropout prevention program and you put in, money to go to a dropout prevention conference, there's not going to be too much explanation needed. But there are sometimes some other things where, we'll see something in the budget that we don't necessarily see in the narrative. And that generally raises questions in reviewers' minds. So I would say if you're going to include additional travel and training, you'll want to, just provide some, what would be called justification, or, just the reason why you're building that in. I will just make one caveat on that, which is you do have access to quite a lot of free training and technical assistance. So the one thing we wouldn't want you to build in is like training consultants to come out to you, because that's taking your funding for your program when we've already got free training for you. If it's something, very specific to your program, like say you need somebody to help develop a database for you, then yes, you should build that in. But in general, the strategic planning training, any kind of trauma-informed training, any kind of specific youth program focused training, we will provide that for you.
Great, thank you, Kara. And for Purpose Area 9, can you please remind us about the individual award amounts and the length of the programs for Purpose Area 9? They just want clarification because they thought the award was for $400,000 per year for up to 5 years.
Okay, yeah, thank you for clarifying that. And this number has changed over the last couple of years, so I'm glad to have the chance to clarify. We will be making approximately 17 awards. It's a 5-year project period, and the total amount that we're making is $500,000. So that would be roughly $100,000 a year. Many programs don't use very much of their budget in the first year. So, you know, it doesn't have to be $100,000 per year, but it's a maximum, I mean, it's a maximum total amount of $500,000. I wish that we did have the funding to provide that much every year.
Thank you, Kara. And the next question is also regarding Purpose Area 9 and specifically looking for clarification on what you would be looking for in an MOU that is part of the application. With applying for Purpose Area 9, they want to be proposing to house their program in their education department and not through the public safety or court departments. And they want to know if you would like to see the MOU with them.
Great, that's a great question. It is always useful if you have a fully, you know, functioning MOU that's already signed and in place. It's always helpful to include that. You know, sometimes people propose that they're going to, you know, start an MOU with the department as part of their grant award program, and you can certainly state that as well if that's where you are. But if you have something like that that indicates that that partnership is already active and that they support the housing of this program in their department, that would be extremely useful to attach to your application.
Thank you, Kara. And if we would choose 4 years instead of 5 years, would we be able to reapply at the end of 4 years, or would we have to wait until year 5 is complete?
Okay, I'm gonna assume that this is for Purpose Area 9 because I think I know who the person is that's asking. But if it's for Purpose Area 8, if you would please clarify that and put it in the question and answer box. Okay, yes, it is Purpose Area 9. Every award that's going to be made in 2021 automatically has a 5-year award period. So the award is made, it has a 5-year period, and it's for a maximum of $500,000. So that means you cannot close out your award until after the end of that 5-year award period. Now, if you only have a plan to go through 4 years, you can write your program, you know, to take place in 4 years, and then have the last year be, you know, kind of a, you know, a wind down period, or have it be a period of inactivity. But as far as our system goes, all the awards are going to be for 60 months. I hope that made sense. If it did not, please feel free to ask clarifying questions.
Great, thank you, Kara. And as we wait for additional questions, if we could go to the next slide, please. Just as a reminder, we do have 2 additional CTAS webinars coming up. Next Tuesday, we do have the budget worksheet completion webinar. And then following that on March 9th, we do have the application checklist and final Q&A. All the previous recordings can be found at the Office of Justice Programs YouTube channel, which is www.youtube.com/user/OJPOCOM. And again, you can also access the registration links for the upcoming webinars at the www.justice.gov/tribal/open-solicitations website. And those websites are also located on the slide. And we do have an additional follow-up question. And the question is, can you end the project early and close out?
Okay, I think that was probably in response to the last answer that I just gave. So our system has project period end dates, and those are pretty much set. It's not something that we as program managers have the ability to change. So your official formal end date will be 5 years from your award start date. So you're not able to, sort of decide that you are done early and that the funds are expended and close out. You can, it doesn't mean that you can't spend the majority of your funds in years, whatever it is, 2, 3, and 4. But you won't officially be finished with this award until the official end date has passed. The system won't allow you to submit a closeout package until that project period end date.
Hey, this is Heather. Also, if there's some sort of terrible extenuating circumstance, like and that you have to terminate your program, then of course you would contact the Office of Justice Programs and the OCFO, the financial team, and they would work with you and your entity to end and close the grant if something completely tragic happened and you could no longer move forward with the grant. Does that make sense?
Yes, good point.
Thank you, Heather, and thank you, Kara. And while we wait for additional questions, if we could go to the next slide, please. And just as a reminder, there are 2 deadlines, and the grants.gov application deadline is Tuesday, March 16th, and that is by 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And the Just Grants application deadline is Tuesday, March 30th, and again, that is at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. And attendees will receive a brief survey at the end of today's webinar. And we do ask that you complete the survey to help us in planning future webinars by sharing your feedback. And a copy of today's handout is uploaded in the webinar platform. And to access the handout section of the GoToWebinar dialog box, you may need to use that orange arrow to open the dialog box. And you can go ahead and go to what looks like a folder and download today's presentation. And it does look like there's an additional request for reviewer comments. Kara and Heather, is it okay if we connect them with you to request that?
Yes, please do.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Excellent, thank you. And as a reminder, there are FAQs located on the justice.gov/tribal/open-solicitation website. And the FAQs are updated as necessary during this application process. And do any of our presenters or panelists have additional tips they would like to share with our attendees this afternoon?
Hi, yes. This is James, and I hate to sound like a broken record, but it's just very important that we reiterate these dates. We are aware that there are some emails that have circulated around with incorrect information. There was a mistake made in which the CTAS dates were temporarily changed by mistake, and we almost got it corrected the very next day. So if anybody has received any emails stating like an April date, that's not correct. It is the March 16th at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for registering with grants.gov. And then the solicitation is going to close in Just Grants on March 30th at 9 p.m. If anything happens between now and then and we change the dates, you will hear from us officially. Some of you have probably already gotten emails from Fox Valley stating the correct dates, and you probably got something from DOJ yesterday stating the correct dates. So we're doing that just to make sure that you guys are comfortable and aware that the dates that we have read in this webinar that we keep reiterating are correct. It doesn't mean that something can't happen and it may change in the future, but we will be on it and let you know immediately if that happens. But right now, stick with the dates that we are giving you that are in the solicitation, that are in this webinar. So we just want to be very clear about that. The other thing is, I just want to go back to grants.gov really quickly. So it takes anywhere from 24 to 48 hours for grants.gov to let you know if something's wrong or if it's passed and all that good stuff. So you cannot wait, as my colleague Heather mentioned earlier, do not wait till March 31st to do that step. You should be doing that as soon as possible, because what may happen is if you wait till the day of, you're almost guaranteed not to hear back from grants.gov in time to be able to submit your application in Just Grants. So please, please, please do not wait till the last minute. Also, if you do not currently have a Just Grants account, meaning that you don't have an award with us at all, or for some strange reason you have a Just Grants account and it's inactive, and I can't imagine why that would be. It's more than likely you just don't have one. And this only applies to people who may be completely brand new and they've never applied. They don't have any DOJ awards. We are recommending that if it's your first time getting a DOJ award, or it's been years and you haven't had one in years, which means that you'll still be new in Just Grant, that you should be registering and setting up and requesting a Just Grants account by February 26th. We're recommending that. You could do it much later, but with it being a new system, we wanted to encourage you to do it earlier in case there's some problems with you getting an account set up, that we can work with you, or our IT team can work with you to get whatever those issues may be with Just Grants resolved, instead of you waiting to the day of the application closing to submit for a Just Grants account for the first time. So we really encourage you to do everything as early as possible to allow yourself much time. And as my colleague Kara mentioned, one other thing I'll say is, and I know this because I'm typically the one that has to bear the bad news every year to folks, but please try to get your application in, if not a week. I encourage you all to try to get it in 2 weeks beforehand. It allows you to be able to sit down with your team, look at the checklist, look at the requirements, act like your peer reviewers, and kind of see where your application measures up and fix whatever you need to fix. You're not going to be able to do that if you wait till the last day. I've also seen folks make many mistakes on the last day. They've submitted their budget twice, thinking that they submitted their budget once and that the other document was their purpose area narrative, only to find out that they didn't submit their purpose area narrative. And although we feel really bad, there's nothing we can do about that because it's unfair to other applicants who have planned properly and didn't rush. So we're encouraging you to not wait till the last minute, because when you wait till the last minute, you rush and all kinds of mistakes happen. Even if you submit the correct document and it has all these track changes in it, which has happened before, that is what we have to take. We cannot take a new document from you after the deadline is closed. So you just want to make sure that you allow yourself enough time to make sure that you're submitting the correct documents, that it's what you've intended to submit. So you're going to hear that from us a lot in the next few webinars that are left, because we really want you all to do a really good job, but we can't stress enough. Get it in early, read all the requirements, ask us what questions you need to ask. But in saying that, I will also say that we're here to answer technical questions and any kind of questions about the solicitation, but you are in no way allowed to send us any kind of application materials to review. We're legally not allowed to review any type of materials. We can only answer questions. And so I just want to make sure that you guys are fully aware. For those who asked about the forms being like Word versions instead of PDF, I've already reached out to the DOJ web team. They're on it. So probably by tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow morning at the latest, the document should be replaced, maybe even by later today. But if anyone needs them immediately, email me at james.a.smith@usdoj.gov and I can get them to you directly. But they'll be on the website by tomorrow, if not at the end of the day. That's it from me.
Great, thank you, James. Kara, Heather, do you have additional tips you would like to share?
I just really wanted to thank everybody for your time and really appreciate all the good questions and want to wish you the best of luck with your process. And please do reach out to the resources that we talked about in the course of this presentation. They are available to you, the Response Center, the Just Grants Help Desk, the grants.gov Help Desk. But more importantly, I mean, that is all very important. And in terms of your actual program, the Resource Basket and the Tribal Youth Resource Center are there to talk to you, about your actual program and your use. And they're available as a resource to you whether or not you are awarded CTAS funds at all. You can feel free to use them and their expertise now and in the future. And we hope that that's useful to you. And we look forward to being a partner with you with serving your youth and families. So thank you again for your time.
Hi, this is Heather. I'm super excited that you're considering applying for Purpose Area 8 or Purpose Area 9. Before you hang up, I just wanted to say that the not so secret trick to doing a good job when you apply, besides meeting your deadlines, is using those Purpose Area narrative templates and reading that Purpose Area Spotlight document. Because if you write your narrative and answer each of the 8 or 9 questions, and you do it in order, you'll be successful at describing a proposed project that meets the solicitation requirements. So don't be overwhelmed. There are so many tools available for you. The important part is to be diligent, pay attention, and do your best to just can in the time that you have available, right? Literally everybody here really, really wants to help you, and we really want to make sure that you have a successful and smooth process as you apply. Thanks again for participating today.
Thanks, Heather. And we would like to thank everyone for joining us this afternoon. And we hope you can join us for the future webinars on March 2nd and March 9th. And we wish you a great afternoon. Thank you.